I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a,
On this
that is a
sad
sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors. Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avier Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support.
Hey Gloom listeners, it's the Plague. Question for you, are you ready to perform at your peak? Well, our man Pea Soup and the Apex Men's Clinic is here to help you achieve optimal health. Whether it's managing general health concerns, recovering from injuries, or optimizing your hormones, they have you covered. Their comprehensive services include testosterone replacement therapy, cutting-edge treatments, and personalized care plans tailored just for you. At Apex Men's Clinic, you're not just another number. Their expert team is dedicated to helping you feel your best. Visit apexmensclinic.com today to schedule a free consultation. At Apex Men's Clinic, it's men's health done right.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
And we're back. All right. This guy, he's smiling today, just like every time I see him in the gloom. I just love seeing this guy smile and just his passion for leading men in our community. Recently was a site Q at Stormbreaker. So we got our man Amadeus on today. And brother, you look good. It's good to see you. Happy Monday. Why don't you just start us off from the beginning, kind of tell us that EH story, and then if you remember, what was that first workout like, and how'd you get the name Amadeus?
I mean, the first workout sucked,
Yeah.
but let's jump back a little bit. So I've known ICB for, I don't know, probably 10 years. We moved to Omaha 12, 13 years ago, and ICB and I used to do run happy hour on Monday nights, and I ran into him working the corporate cup. I was rooting on the wife. And he goes, "You still working out?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, you should join us." And he's like, "I do this group as Fitness Fellowship Faith, and it's a good time. It's 5:30 in the morning." And then I came up with, 27 excuses why 5:30 in the morning didn't work and why I didn't need a group to support me and everything. And he said, "All right." He's like, "I'm here. You let me know." And so 2 weeks later, he sends me a text message, and he's like, "So you're going to come out?" And I was like, more excuses. Probably a week later, he sends me another text. He's like, "Hey, tomorrow's going to be a good day. You should come out." And I was like, "I can't, but what are you doing on Wednesday?" And so he's like, "I'll tell you where I'm going to be. We'll be there. We're going to do a pre-thing." I was like, "Wait, what's a pre-thing?" He's like, "We're going to go run beforehand." I was like, "All right." I was like, "What time do I need to be there?" He's like, 5:00. So 5:00, show up at Sanitarium. It's like pitch black. It's still May, so it's not light yet. And he's like, "These guys run like an 8-minute mile." And I was like, "Have you ever seen me run an 8-minute mile in your entire life?" And he was like, "That's fine. We'll go down to the track." So we went down to the track. We did it. And Vandalay, who I think it's his only time to like ever go that far south, doing because Swiper was on vacation or something again, work, and Vandalay was on cue, and I literally thought I was going to die the entire time. Just every freaking step, I was like, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life." And we finished the workout, and we're doing Namarama, and I grew up in Portland, and everybody's like, "What are you into?" I was like, "I love music." And so they said, "Well, what music do you not like?" And I was like, "I like a little bit of everything." People started throwing things out. And finally somebody goes, "What about classical?" And I go, So Amadeus.
Right.
And, Tater Tot tells this story better than I do. But he eventually, I think it was JC, throws out. He's like, no, we can't do Amadeus. He's like, "We should do Nickelback." And I must not have had a horrible reaction because not everybody jumped on it.
Uh,
But there was some more discussion. Vandalay was like, no, we're sticking with Amadeus. At that point in time, Sanitarium's coffee was off site at the Starbucks. We show up at Starbucks, and there's a guy with a personalized license plate that says Amadeus on it.
Nice.
So it kind of stuck at that point in time, and that's the history and the background behind Amadeus. And
Oh,
at first, I think like most of us, you're like, oh man, this name sucks.
yeah.
And then about a month in, it really starts to grow on you.
Yeah. Well, and man, Vandalay is known for doing a pretty difficult workout. Typically has some running, so you're for your first workout. But the name thing, like you said, it's everybody kind of goes through that initial. I don't like it, but you get used to it. Have you looked up Amadeus? Because Amadeus is the name of a song, right?
Yeah.
By
So there's Rock Me Amadeus.
yeah.
More importantly, it's Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Yep.
So, like, right, most people have seen the movie, right? People our age-ish have seen the movie, right? It was pretty big back in the early 90s. So, a little bit of crazy. It kind of fits in, right? A little bit of crazy, a little bit of like crazy genius, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you've got a decent call sign, right? You can kind of tickle the ivories kind of deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's funny how we get to like the dots sometimes connect, but at least you like music a little bit, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think it worked out pretty good, right? Like,
Yeah.
back behind me here, I've got concert posters in the office. Like, it's my thing. So,
Yeah. What kind of music are you actually into?
so this is a problem. Literally a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Mostly variations of rock through the ages.
Yeah.
U2 is probably my favorite band. I love Social Distortion. My wife's a big Blue October fan.
Okay.
So like a little bit of everything. I will pretty much not turn down a free ticket to a concert.
Yeah.
So
heck yeah.
like somebody's like, hey, I got a ticket to go see this band. We'll go see them. Back when I was growing up, we would go see a show 4 nights a week in Portland.
Oh wow.
Get off work and go either sneak into the club or buy tickets to go see a band in a club or stand outside and listen to music.
So were you born and raised in Portland, or did you, or what? Talk us through kind of the history there. What's been your path?
Yeah, so my mom grew up in St. Louis. I guess I got like my love of music from mom. She grew up, in the 60s, and she was stuck an hour outside of Woodstock in the traffic jam and decided to turn around and go back. Poor decision, but right?
Yeah.
And she moved out to Portland area to nanny some kids.
Okay.
And met my dad, fell in love. They moved to They had my brother, and then they moved to California for a year and a half. And I was born in California, so I'm the middle child and the outsider, and like I've always kind of adopted that, so it's been kind of cool. So I'm technically not an Oregonian, but
Yeah.
I claim.
Nice. And then what brought you here? How'd you land in Nebraska?
Yeah, work. So I went to school for radio broadcasting.
Okay.
Maybe another link to Amadeus there.
Yeah.
And I decided I didn't want to live in Bozeman, Montana, and work overnights. And I wanted to move to the big city. So at that point in my life, the big city was Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
And so I worked at I initially applied with Hilton. I applied with all the big hotels and got told I had no experience.
Mm.
When the markets are good, that's the way it goes. When the markets are bad, kind of a different story, right?
Yeah.
Unemployment's low. They can be picky and choosy. So I worked at a Best Western, 60-room Best Western for about a year and a half. And then went and reapplied at all the downtown hotels and got a job at the Hilton, working overnights. Kind of worked my way up, front office supervisor, front office manager. And my boss came in one day. He's like, hey, there's a job in Chicago. You should apply for it. So I was like, all right. So I applied for the job in Chicago. They flew me out. It was like world class. Like we don't do stuff. Like they picked me up at the airport in a limo, 24-year-old dude getting picked up in a limo.
That's cool.
Put me in a big huge suite with a nice amenity. Right. It was awesome. They offered me like, I don't know, a $5,000 a year raise to go live in Chicago. So I thought I was going to be rich. And
Yeah.
And then like I just like cut my chops in Chicago for quite a few years. I was assistant director of front office and director of reservations, and then went down to Austin, met my wife in Austin. We got engaged. She got the what she thought was her dream job. And then about 4 months later, I said, "Hey, I've got an opportunity to go to Omaha." And she goes, "Omaha, where?"
Yeah,
Uh,
where an opportunity?
where?
Yeah,
And she's like, "I am not moving." So like we had a long talk. I came up here to kind of try it out, and she bought in. She said I had to get her a cat, so we got a cat and moved to Nebraska.
that is awesome. I love hearing that because it's so cool to just think of all the different experiences you've had, along that journey. So where's your family at today? Like most of your
So most
folks.
of my family is all back in the Portland area.
Okay.
Um, I mean, my mom passed away Easter
Mm,
weekend. It's kind of weird. Like that's kind of our anniversary. So we were actually in Nashville celebrating. But my dad, my sister, my brother, so all my immediate family is back in Portland. We've got some cousins in Kansas City and St. Louis,
okay.
and then Kelly's family, my she's her whole family's in Texas, um, kind of around, so kind of
Okay.
spread out too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. It's so cool to kind of, we don't always get that part of your journey, out in the gloom. So it's kind of cool to hear, but, so I guess back to kind of our fitness fellowship and faith, stuff here. From a first step perspective, I mean, has fitness or physical activity been a part of that journey for you, or like, where were you at when you started in F3?
Yeah, I mean, like so, I thought I was in okay shape. Um, like right, like we'd run like at that point in time, I'd run like 7 or 8 half marathons. Always said I was going to train for the half marathon, not really train, show up, almost die, finish it. But I was like, I was improving, right? Like that slow improvement. And then I showed up to a couple of beat downs and I was like, I'm not in any sort of decent shape that I think I'm in. Um, and it was really like the motivation, right? Like it's like, and it's the little things. It's somebody saying, "Hey, where are you posting tomorrow?"
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "Oh, I was thinking about posting wherever," and they're like, "All right, I'll see you there." And then you wake up and you don't want to go, and like you have to go because who the plague's going to be there, and
Yeah.
if I don't show up, I'm gonna have to hear about it or
Yeah.
whatever the case is. So like it just became that, right? And it became like, all right, I don't want to post at somebody's beatdown because I know that they're going to run, right? Be it Farva or Swiper or whoever. Like we all know those guys run, and then one day I woke up and I was like, I want to go post at a Swiper beatdown,
Yeah.
and it just changed, right? Like I was like, I can go hang with these guys, like I can fit in where I need to fit in, and modify as necessary, but I can hang with them. Um, Still can't run 8-minute miles, but
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I love that. What,
right. And then,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's to the point now I signed up for Chicago for the Chicago Marathon, and like that's flat out stupid.
Yeah.
But I'll be done in a month.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good disclaimer, right? Is like, nothing in F3 says that you start making smarter, decisions, right? Necessarily,
No,
right? You
no,
just,
no.
we still do a lot of dumb stuff. It's just maybe healthier. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love it. Well, and I think it's cool to just kind of hear as you came into the group, right, that you had some experience, in running. Maybe we can kind of talk about running a little bit, but there's a lot more than just running that the group does. But just being able to come into the group, be met where you're at, but then also have some opportunity to say, "Hey, I'm ready to go after that next level." I mean, I don't know if you would talk us through
Yeah.
that journey, because I don't know that every guy sees those opportunities or processes it the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, right, it's that constant support. It's the like when I started, this isn't running related, but when I started, I couldn't do a sit up.
Mm-hmm.
right? And then like we would sit there and like one day like I sat there and I did my first sit up, like, and you're like, wow, I don't even think about the fact I can't do a sit up,
Mm-hmm.
but now I can, right? Like, or Merkins, right? Like you sit there and you're like, man, I'm dying on the Merkins. I got to be on my knees, and then one day you're like, I don't need to be on my knees anymore. And I think that I've only posted downrange once, but I know a lot of guys have posted downrange. Like Omaha is super special because there's literally always somebody right next to you that is going to pick you up
Mm-hmm.
and is going to support you and find that right amount of like brotherly like push, like I'm going to push you to the point that like is okay and I don't want to break you, like, but be like, you can do it, like don't give up, like don't wimp out on this, like you can do it. Whereas like we're always coming back to get to six. We're always making sure that that last guy is good. We're always making sure, and it's special. Like it's super,
Mm-hmm.
super special. Like F3 is special, but F3 Omaha is like next level special. And so it was literally like one day I woke up, I was like, I can do this, or I can do this, or I can do this, or like, you know what, you guys are gonna go do that, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna meet. Like I trained for a half marathon, and I wanted a PR, and like, I would go out, I would text the site queue, whoever's queuing, and be like, hey man, I need to go run and I need the commitment to go run. I know you guys are doing a regular beatdown, but I want to finish and join your COT. Is that all right? Nobody's ever going to tell you no,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, you have to lean into it in the way that you need to lean into it. Um, but the opportunity is there, and you have to be open to sharing your journey.
Mm.
Um, Like all of those 7 minute mile guys, if I called them today and said, I need somebody to come run with me, I don't think a single one of them would say no.
Yeah.
Right? They'd be like, sure, I'll go run with you. And I can tell you, it's not easy to drop whatever 5, 6 minutes off your pace, right? It
Yeah.
hurts. It changes your form. But every single one of them will come do a run with me.
Yeah. I love that you're calling that out because I think you're spot on, but it does take a little bit of courage from the guy who needs to run a slower pace to, like, because I may not always recognize that. I'm trying to look for that and try to be attentive and anticipate people's needs, but it's easier, right? If a guy's just like, hey, and even if you're injured, right? Or maybe it's like I need to walk or ruck, or I think there have been some of my favorite mornings in the gloom. I remember showing up and it's like somebody's like, I got to walk today because I'm injured, and being able to just walk next to a guy and the conversation,
Yeah.
it's just, it's just, I don't know. You just feel really, and that to me feels great because I get to support somebody who's going through maybe a challenging time. But I love that you're
And I
calling
think
that
you
out.
learn a lot about each other that way, right?
Hmm.
Um,
For sure.
I mean, randomly, like Baby Back and I ran together one time, and now we call each other up and go run. Um, and he was like, "Hey, when are you running?" We're like accountability partners, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it's random, totally like non. It just happened one time, right? There's guys that'll be like, "Hey, I just need somebody to go talk to." Like that ability there is really what it's all about.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
and
talk
no,
me
go ahead. Sorry.
talk me through as you started F3. So do you remember your progression? Like, were you hooked right away? Was it like, okay, this is what I need, I'm going the next day and the next day, or did you take some time to kind of ease into it? Do you remember what that was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I posted the very first day at Sanitarium, and then I posted the next day at Main Stage,
Okay.
um, and I posted uh, at Steel Mill, and then very like shortly after it, right? Like so, like 3 times in the first week at least. Um, Very shortly after that, I was like 4 times a week, 5 times a week. I've never really posted on the weekends because that's kind of the time with the wife, and
Yep.
like every once if she's out of town or something, I'll post on the weekends. And then I kind of got to the point that I was like, okay, like I need rest days.
Yeah.
Rest days are super important. So I like kind of went through this like balancing out fact. But I think for the first 3 months, it was I knew I needed to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to do it. I guess would be the easiest way to describe it, right? Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna go post, ICB or bobsled or Parsecs eventually would text and be like, "Where are you posting tomorrow?" I'd be like, "All right, I'll go post somewhere." Right, and it was good, but then eventually it became a habit,
Mm-hmm.
and like I think I knew I needed it. I think if you would have asked me, I would have said no, I don't need it. Uh,
Right.
right, and then it became a habit, and it became a thing, and it became a like if I don't do it, I miss it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that sort of transition, right, from like the thing like a obligation or a task to like a habit now that is like ingrained, and you're like, you can tell you when you don't do it, you can tell you missed it. I
Yeah.
curious too where you found the most success in terms of like, because you went to sanitarium, so some boot camp stuff, then you went to a weights workout, and then I don't know if you've found yourself like if rucking is something that you enjoy doing, or but talk us through some of those different offerings and maybe where you found kind of your groove.
Yeah, I mean, I find I don't know. I kind of like the gypsy thing. Basically, the only sites I don't post at are um, the running sites, just because it's usually not the running I'm looking to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like the first time I showed up at Mount Olympus, I got convinced to show up at Mount Olympus, and I went to Mount Olympus because it wasn't a coupon site. And if you know anything about Mount Olympus, it's a coupon site. So that was like my first coupon site, right? And then I post the first time, and they're like, "Well, how long you been coming out?" And I was like, 3 or 4 months. They're like, "All right, when's your VQ?" And I was like, "Come on now."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, you're going to do a VQ here, right?" And then I signed up for my VQ. So coupons like have this kind of weird special spot, and I think they like challenge me in a way that it it's hard to half-ass a coupon workout.
Yeah.
Um, And so, like, I have a special kind of, I don't post a lot at coupon workouts, maybe once a month, but I have like this special spot for a coupon workout. Um, and I think the same thing about, the weight workouts. Um, I think the fellowship at some of those workouts, because you tend not to move as much, tends to be better, and you do a lot of AMRAP. But the like regular, just traditional beatdown is still like probably it, right? Because it's so different every time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can show up and you can run 3 miles and do 1,000 Merkins, or you can sit there and not move at all. And either way, you're probably not feeling good when you walk away.
Right.
You're feeling great, but you're feeling beat up, right? So like I like the variety that comes with that. Um, I know that's like the most non-answer answer
No,
I could possibly give, but
that's great. I think it's part of it, right? I think that's, the fact that you have different options, and really you could put together a workout plan. If you really wanted to hit multiple weight sites a week, you could do that too. You could
yeah.
play, I think we've got a lot of different options. And I love that it sounds like you were able to try them all out, right? And really kind of figure out what was going to be best for you. Would love to hear like where you at today in terms of some of those first step goals. Do you feel like have you made some progress? You got some room to keep going. Where do you see yourself at today?
Yeah, I mean, like obvious, like tracking things, right? I can do Merkins,
Mm-hmm.
which is huge.
Yeah.
I I can do big boys, which is huge. Um, I've PR'd my half marathon distance 3 times in the last year.
Wow.
Uh, Under 2:30 was like the goal, and then I'm gonna run a marathon, right? Like so, like all of that has been huge. And my wife, huge runner, but she sucks at the cross training portion of it,
Mm-hmm.
and right, like we all suck at the stretching part of it,
Yeah.
but the fact that she's like, man, the cross training is taking, like you can see it, and I'm down 70 pounds since I started F3
Wow.
2 years ago. Um, and there's been a lot of plateaus in that too, right? Like you get stuck, but you think you're stuck, but like the next thing you know, like your fitness is accelerating, and then you start to lose weight again, and you kind of plateau your fitness a little bit while you lose weight, and it kind of goes. I went to go watch football yesterday, and I put on my jersey that fit me good last year, and it like looks like I'm swimming in it this year, right?
Yeah.
So there's like it's those little things that you're like, wow, this is a huge difference. It's a huge step, and it's all really that like dedication to self.
Mm.
The fitness led into like, all right, if I eat bad the night before, like I'm not gonna feel good at the workout. It just feeds into itself. I mean, we all make decisions that we skip a workout or we eat a pizza when we should eat salad, whatever it
Yeah.
is. But it just brought everything more into focus, which is huge, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Mine is just portion control. We were at
Mine too.
a birthday party last night, and they had pizza, and I'm like, why is it that I couldn't ever have just two slices of pizza? Like, why wouldn't you? And
No,
like, I don't know. For some reason I like to eat until I'm so uncomfortable. But
yeah,
it's like, I don't
it's
know.
100%. That's my problem too, right? I could eat healthy or bad. It's portion control. And like at work, we do a buffet, and I'm like, oh, I can go get a second plate. I'll just have half, right?
Right, right. It's like my parents always said, "You're a growing boy. Go get seconds." And at some point I needed somebody to turn that off.
Yeah. Tell you you're not growing anymore.
Right? Yeah, apparently not. Oh, I love it. Well, it's so cool to hear. And I guess what I'm curious, like you're mentioning some of these milestones, right? From like doing one sit up to doing a Merkin, and all the way to like PR in some really long races, and then losing 70 pounds. I mean, what does that type of transformation do for you, for a man? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like, mentally, spiritually, kind of all of that. That's got to do something inside of you that just is like amazing. But I don't know. Curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't know, it'd probably be better ask somebody else what it's done to me, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
True.
think, I think the thing is, you know, you, I think it was Ogre the other day. I hadn't seen in a while. Like walked up to me and he's like, we showed up for a beatdown, and he's like, "Holy crap, what happened to you?" Right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing!" Like, and then I went out and ran, and I was like, I felt amazing because Ogre said I looked amazing,
Yeah.
and like I ran way faster than I was supposed to. It was a training run, and I ran way faster than I was supposed to run. Right? Like JC came up behind me. No, Firewalker came up behind me during that run, and he made a comment too. Firewalker, every time he runs behind me, tells me I have sexy calves.
Yeah.
So, so he's like, "Hey, sexy calves," and like, right then I was like, "Well, I can't slow down because Firewalker is behind me now."
Yeah.
So, confidence, I think.
Mhm.
I think it builds confidence, and I think it builds that ability to trust in
Mhm.
yourself. Um, and I think it builds the I don't. I think I'm in a special spot, right? Because there's a lot of guys in F3 that have always been good athletes. There's probably always been somebody better than them, but they've always been good, and they've always been kind of top of the class and that stuff. And they connect really well with the like not good athletes that we have in F3.
Mhm.
But I feel that I'm not at that level yet, but I can connect with both in a different way that I couldn't connect with a year ago, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Um, I know that you can change from that 15-minute mile into running a sub 30 5K. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if I could do that, I'd be like, I'm never going to run a sub 30 5K, right?
Mhm.
I can do it on a training run. I don't. It hurts still,
Yeah.
right? That's pushing it for me, but I can go do it on a training run now. Um, so I know it's possible, and I know the work it takes to get in there, and then I know that with that work, like I could probably at some point in time maybe hang out with those 7 minutes,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool to hear. And I think you're right. You know, the confidence that you gain from proving yourself wrong, right? You maybe had this story in your mind of like, I can't do XYZ, or I won't achieve whatever, you know, you name it. And when you prove yourself wrong like that, you kind of are like, okay, like I got this. And, you know, curious if you know, as you think about like the fellowship side of things, does that impact your ability to build relationships, or do you know,
yeah.
just kind of thinking through that with you, like what has been that journey like?
I mean, I'll be the first guy to say that. I mean, it's weird. My aim and I don't have kids, right? We moved here. We've always had a very small social circle. Uh, I mean, even growing up, I had a super small social circle. Always like very tight with a small group of guys, and
Mm-hmm.
that was it. And so like I've always known one thing, and the coolest that like the I say it all the time. Like the workout is extra. The coolest thing about F3 is cafeteria,
Mm-hmm.
and some of my favorite cafeterias are like roast, because you get two sites together that they go through different things, and we sit down and we talk about, hey, what you guys do, what you guys do, and you get new interactions because of it. You have a joint misery because you all went through a beatdown together, like at the same time, but
Mm-hmm.
they're different beat. And you can compare and contrast. And there's multiple cafeterias like that that exist. You know, Sandlot steel mills like that, um, that bring different beatdowns together. I love those. Um, as I took over a PsyQ, that was a big part for me, because I have a Monday morning meeting with my boss here at work, and I was like, I have to be a cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that as a PsyQ, it is important for me, and you can miss it every once in a while, but to be a cafeteria and to be a part of that, and so I came into my boss and I was like, hey, I've got this opportunity. We have to change our time,
Nice.
and he's like, all right.
That's cool.
Um, so like that fellowship there is huge, and I think that a lot of guys have this connection because kids and their kids are in youth sports and they're different things, but for me, I can lean into that and be a part of it without still, I think in other areas I would be more of an outsider,
Mm.
and that allows you to be brought more in. It's super awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. You're saying that because you don't have kids in like outside of F3, not having kids, you maybe might not have the opportunity to be friends with some of these guys, but because F3, the not having kids doesn't matter. Am I hearing you right?
Correct, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, kids are a great opportunity to, if you have kids and they have kids,
Yeah.
it's birthday parties, soccer games, but right, like they're in school stuff together, so you get that opportunity to interact. So it's forced in interaction outside of the work environment,
Mm-hmm.
which is great, um, to really build relationships with people on a different level. And I think the cool thing is there's so many people that outside of F3, um, we probably wouldn't. There'd be no reason for us to interact,
Mm-hmm.
um, on all sorts of different levels. And the fact that you could call somebody up and say, "Hey, I need." I'm gonna just use this one because we have like 75 of them, but like I'm looking for a lawyer to do XYZ,
Yeah.
and right,
Yeah.
somebody's be like, "Oh, call whoever,"
Yeah.
because that's what they handle, or
Yeah.
I need a plumber, or I need everybody knows somebody, or there's somebody in F3 that can do it. It's an amazing community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, hey, we need help from storm damage. People are showing up at people's houses, to help each other out. People are doing whatever to make sure that somebody else is successful above them,
Yeah.
which is important.
I gave a COT on that a couple of weeks ago because it's hard to know who to trust anymore in terms, like, you know, if you need work done on your house or what, you're like, well, how do I know if this I don't know, is Angie's List really 5-star? Does that mean anything? And man, we had a company quote us like 10 grand or basically replace your whole AC unit. Then I had Flying V's company come out, and it's just the amount of trust you have. And I've never even worked out with Flying V, but I'm just like, well, he's an F3 guy, so it's got,
It must be legit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Curious if would you be willing to share, like, in terms of not having kids? Is that just a decision, or not able to, and you don't have to go there if you don't want to, but
No, I mean it's probably a timing thing, right?
mm,
More so than anything else. We got married later than most people, so we were already in our 30s and enjoying being around each other. And then wake up one day and you're 40, right? And
mm-hmm,
then there's all sorts of new risks that happen, like from just a having kids point of view. Um, it's weird. Like there's days that I regret not having kids, and then
mm-hmm.
there's days that I'm super grateful that we don't, in a way, because we get to experience things that we might, right. I could not do a 3-week vacation to
Yeah,
Europe if we had kids.
yeah,
with There's no way we could have done that. And so there's like it's this weird juxtaposition of like, man, it's amazing some days, and then it really sucks, because a kid's a legacy.
mm,
And so there's some days that you're like, man, like my legacy ends with me.
mm,
um, and that's weird. So it goes back and forth. Depends what day it is.
yeah, yeah,
I think it was a conscious decision. Um, I think it was always like, oh, let's wait till next year.
yeah. Yeah, we're enjoying what we've got, and yeah, well, it's just always, I'm always just curious, and something F3 opened my eyes to. I didn't realize how many people are actually struggle with fertility stuff,
Oh yeah.
until I started F3, and guys started to be open and ask for prayer requests, and then we had some issues ourselves, and you sort of take for granted, like, it's not as easy. It's not like we just get to say we want to have a baby and then it just happens, right? Like there's some issues that a lot of people run into. So
Well, I think that's part of the problem with the world right now is the only thing that we post on social media is good stuff, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
I got a new car.
yeah,
And we live in very the relationships that we have are very guarded a lot of times, and I think F3 breaks those barriers down. Um, I
yeah,
think that's a super important. You have to find somebody. It starts with finding one person that you feel comfortable with to sit there in the gloom with and say, "Man, I'm having trouble," and then eventually you're going to do a COT about it,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden, depending on how much 5 to 20 packs are going to know what you're having trouble with, and pretty soon 2 of those packs are going to tell 3 other packs when they're out working out with them. And next thing you know, you're getting texts from guys you've never worked out with before and be like, "Hey, I'm here for you if you need something." And
mm-hmm.
that's happened to me, right? Where you struggle about something, and I think that's the cool thing about us is like we move around, um, and I at least try to get out. I know there's some guys that post to the same spot every week, but I try to mix it up a little bit because you get these new unique interactions and these new unique connections that allow you to experience things in that way and build those relationships that are true.
Mm-hmm.
I've got people on Facebook I haven't talked to in 20 years, really, right?
Right, yeah,
And every once in a while they like a Facebook post because they come across it. But I've talked to all my F3 guys, and most of them I don't have on Facebook.
right.
And I would say relationships better with them than the Facebook side. So
That is fascinating to me too. I think the other cool thing I would just say, in terms of legacy, right, is you get to share, who you are, and your beliefs, your values, and your lessons with all these other guys that, like you said, we may not end up getting to know you at all if our kids aren't in the same, right? Like that. So some of the things that sort of connect you on social media or just in the world, we don't need those things because we're connected via F3 in this really cool way. So I think it's really just like you said, it's a unique way to like for you to have relationships that may not have come about. And I think that's really cool. There's so many different layers to that throughout the
Well, and I
group.
think that it's funny. I've got like the vision board in my office,
Oh
and
yeah.
G String knows this, but he gave a COT, I don't know, probably 2 years ago now, and it was about his kid, and it was all about yet, and how yet was the most powerful word in the English language, and make yet your why, right?
Mm,
And it's been up there since then. Like I wrote it down,
yeah.
and it's been up there, right? And the fact that you could say something that we put together, it impacts somebody that much that they're going to pass it on to somebody, their kid, their friend, their family, their mom, their dad, whatever. And that's a legacy too.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I, would be curious as you think about, just other relationships and maybe even other things that we do or could be doing to kind of strengthen those. And kind of this crossover into that third F piece. Curious what's been your journey from a third F side, and would love to hear. I know, and again, you don't have to go if you don't want to. But I know your mom passed away that just not too long ago, and so just kind of curious, like guys coming alongside you as you're going through something in a spiritual or kind of third F space. What impact has that had on you?
I mean, I think it's a big deal. My fellowship journey has been very unique, and a little bit different than probably a lot of guys in F3. Some guys know this. Um, I my dad grew up Catholic.
Mm.
Uh, Mom grew up kind of like weird Protestant outreach Midwest St. Louis religion thing going on. And so growing up, we were never like super like we're gonna go to church, and I was about 7 years old, and I decided that I wanted to be baptized, and I wanted to be baptized Lutheran,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
and and then I kind of went all in. Went through confirmation, got baptized, the 90 like all in. Um, and Portland in the 90s was pretty unique, and the the church that I was around was not the most diverse and open and accepting
Mm.
uh, place, in multiple ways, right? And that's not a like Lutheran thing. Like I'm grown up now enough to realize that um, individual leaders can influence the way things go.
Yeah.
And about that time, I really got involved in Boy Scouts, which, right, like if you look at like the overarching history of Boy Scouts, you could say the same thing about it.
Yeah.
But I had some amazing leaders in Scouts, who really taught me faith in a different level, um, and kind of some of my virtues and acceptance and joining in. So it kind of like transitioned into this like more holistic faith view and dove into trying to understand people's faith in a different way.
Mm.
So from going to church every Sunday and going through the structured organization of it to more of a like, okay, what do you believe in? Why do you believe that? And how does that make you a better person? Because I think that every faith has this ability to like messaging is kind of similar across a lot of faith,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that, right? It's to make us better people, um, and how that directs to that higher power is a different thing. So like that really started to develop my worldview. So as I transitioned into adulthood and like developing my own personality, I think I kind of lost my way a little bit.
Mm.
Um, So when ICB was like, "Hey, fitness, fellowship, and faith," I was like, "I'm out."
Oh yeah.
Like, right? He said faith, and I was like, "Nope. Like, I don't I don't need to." I lived in Chicago. Like, I don't need to.
I'm good.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and he was like, I mean, he was even. I think he realized he was like, "Hey, it's not." He's like, "It's not churchy," and I was like, "All right." And he's like, "We say prayer at the end. Like, some guys are more into it than other guys. Like, just show up, right?" And so for me, probably in the beginning, that was like the hardest thing to get into was the faith side of it, because my personal journey has been so weird, comparatively, right? I've been burned a couple of times, like from the faith thing, um, but then I started to meet other guys that were like, yeah, I believe in God, but I don't like have to believe in a church, or
Hmm.
I like believe this, and like, and then I realized there was more commonality again. It brought commonality back to me, um, and it brought the ability to, ask for prayer, um, from people. That was hard for me, but I think it's pretty cool. Like, and I don't think I would have got there without F3. Maybe it's weird, right? Major life changing events change us. My grandfather, when he passed away, had not been to mass. Right, he grew up Catholic. Had not been to mass in probably 50 years.
Mm.
And if you would have asked him the day before he became ill and couldn't communicate if he wanted his last rites, I bet you he would have said no.
Mm.
For some reason, my dad decided to have the priest come give him his last rites. And two things happened. He calmed down and he waited for me to get home,
Wow.
right? Because I was in Chicago at the time. I literally went in and said goodbye, and he passed away like 20 minutes later.
Wow.
Now, that can be like, right, like
Hmm.
coincidence. It could be a plan. It could be all those things. But to me, like that's what it's about,
Hmm.
right? Like the ability of the priest to be able to ease his pain, and then for him to have the strength to be able to wait for me to say goodbye,
Yeah.
um, is pretty cool. And that's that transition into to faith, right? Um, if you would have asked me that same question 5 years ago, I would have been like, Gramps waited for me to get home,
Yeah.
right? But I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's what it's shown me, and that's what it's like. This was the part I was most worried about because I was like, how am I going to express this?
Just for the interview, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, you're
Um,
fine. You're doing
and so
great.
I was like, I knew we would get to this point, but I was like, how do I express this and make it come across the way I want it to come across? But I think that's what it's really about is like this group has really allowed me to dive into that and feel okay where I'm at.
Yeah. I think that's so cool, and I love what you're describing. Where like you're in a spot where you're comfortable acknowledging there's something bigger, but you're not being hard on yourself if maybe there's still like some question about who that or what that is or how it works or but you're like in a space like you said where you're comfortable where you're at. And I think gosh, if we could help more guys get there, and it doesn't have to be about a religion or a certain church that you go to or the denomination or some of these kind of worldly things, but just helping guys explore that. Um, gosh, that would be my dream because I just think there's some guys that are blocking it out because it's uncertain and we don't know everything about it. And but I love hearing you kind of share that example of just being comfortable with where you're at with it and still growing.
I think there's a lot of people that, right, like there's two sides of this. There's the person that goes to church every Sunday, and they're in a worse position than I am because they go to church because they feel like they have to go to
Mm-hmm.
church, and
Yeah.
they're lacking faith and belief in what, right? They're lying to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that's wrong. and there's a lot of guys that are the complete opposite that have 100% faith, and right, and then there's guys that don't go to church that have some faith, and then there's guys that don't have faith but like could get some of that faith somewhere, and so I think that to look at it from a big picture standpoint, it's really to know what that individual needs to get over that hurdle. Going back to the fitness thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm in good shape. Yeah, you're in good shape until you do a Iron Packs challenge,
Right.
and then you're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with faith. Like, oh, my faith is strong. Well, wait until it gets tested in
Yeah.
some way that you don't think it's going to get tested, and then how does that affect you? And I think the biggest thing about faith is to going back to the openness and to be able to express yourself and your needs, and have faith that things are going to work out from that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and to your comment there, I can tell you, I went to church for many years, just lost as all get out, faking it. And man, that is no way to live. That is like sad clown all day, and that just, yeah, it's not worth it. It's sort of like, why would you put yourself through that? So I love, and how cool, right, that the comment you made about feeling comfortable to ask for prayers. I probably underestimate how many guys like sometimes you say any prayer request, and the reason sometimes it's silent is it's certainly not because nobody needs anything, right? It is just sort of like, how do we help guys be more comfortable asking for help and asking for prayers in that space? But definitely a cool.
There's more trust in that 2 minutes
Mm-hmm.
than anything else we do.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? I mean, like you're putting yourself all in a line between your circle of trust and the prayers. Like there is more trust than most of us experience in weeks
Mm-hmm.
at work.
Yeah, that's why the group is so effective, And what's it like to love your dentist? Well, you're about to find out, where healthy smiles go beyond your teeth. No drilling, no needles, and no anxiety. Relax. It's Omaha Laser Dentistry. Welcome to better. At Omaha Laser Dentistry, Dr. Bullenparty uses the Solea laser, a CO2 laser that's used in all of his day-to-day patient care. He provides thorough exams, assessments, and treatments for things like snoring, tethered tissue, and extractions like wisdom teeth, as well as other surgeries. Check him out today at omahalaserdentistry.com. Discounts may be available for F3 Omaha members. I guess, the other thing we like to talk about is the mission, right? Kind of invigorating male community leadership. And my view, right, is like when you're leading a site, you're stewarding those experiences, right? So like tons of responsibility that our site Qs have to just maintain that, environment where guys can grow in all these different areas. Talk us through your chance to be a site Q and kind of how that went, the highs and lows, and maybe any advice that you have for current site Qs.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll I'll start at the end.
Okay.
And the last week felt like I was going to give a baby up for adoption, which is probably really weird since how the fact that we just talked about I don't have kids.
Yeah.
But I really felt like I was giving a piece of me away. I felt like it was the right thing, but it was a challenge, right? So we already talked a little bit about, I think everybody dives into it a little bit different. I wanted to be that, alternative to the Monday Murph thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why Titan Alley was kind of there. We don't have to Murph on Mondays. We can do other things on Mondays, and so Stormbreaker became that, and Stormbreaker became that for me. Murphs aren't for everybody, for a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing, and it was how do I carry this through? And then it was oh my gosh, it really sucks here in February, and we're on top of a hill.
Yeah.
And so then I came up with a plan, and it was like, well, what am I going to do in February when nobody wants to show up? And I said, I'm going to find all the guys that I know people will show up to. That could be, like a khakis queue where people are like, I'm just going to show up because khakis is queuing, or
Mm-hmm.
KOA, or whoever. So I like had a list of all these people that I'm like, I'm going to ask them to queue during the crappie months because I want to fill all the crappie month time periods. And then the next thing I know, I didn't need any of them because I had people that wanted to queue,
Nice.
right? And that goes back to the fellowship thing, like coffee. Like I can't tell you how many times at coffee you'd be like, "When's the last time you were a Stormbreaker?" And somebody would be like, "Oh, it's been a while." I was like, "You want me to put you on the schedule?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then it just organically filled up, right? Happy hour, whatever it was. So then next thing you know, like I have a whole list of packs that like I wanted to queue that I never got the opportunity to have them queue at my site, which is kind of weird. Um, I wanted to start off with uh, VQs. That was super special to me. So the first 4 weeks we had VQs uh, at Stormbreaker.
Nice.
Uh, so the first month was a solid month of VQs. I apparently made a couple of guys, other site queues, a little angry at me uh, because I apparently got some of the guys that they'd been targeting,
Yeah.
right? But like that was super special to me to have that experience and to bring that in, and then we really didn't have anything for the next year, but then we finished with Lot Lizard's VQ right before we did the Shovel Flag Pass.
Yeah.
Um, so like those were things that I felt were cool and were important, and how to be an alternative to what takes place right across the street from us, but still be a part of that, and still be involved in that, and how to engage. You know, I think we engaged a lot of guys that either were going through some injury stuff or needed a break but still wanted to engage, or had stepped away for a second but wanted to come back. Like I think it was cool, and it's a unique site because a lot of the sites we have generically have the same core group of guys that showed up.
Mm-hmm.
We would kind of vary sometimes. Some guys would come in and then they would go away for a couple of weeks and then come back, and I think that's awesome because think it kept it fresh and it kept it unique and it kept it cool, and um, we did a little bit of everything, right? Coupons. We did a Murph or two during the year.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise Murph. I think uh, my favorite memory was I came up with this plan pretty early on. Um, but there's a challenge that we do once a month that Hard Hat put on, and I knew Skids had proctored said challenge before, so I reached out to Skids and I was like, "Hey Skids, I want you to queue, and I want to do the challenge, right?" And it was pretty cool. Like we made guys do something that they would never do.
Yeah. Is that Apex?
Um, it was Apex. It was
Allegedly.
Apex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Allegedly, it was Apex. Everybody else we told it was just a normal beatdown. Right, but I know of at least two guys that had never done it. Well, besides me, that had never done the Apex before,
Yeah.
and we did a surprise Apex.
That's
Um,
awesome. I
and
like
it's
that.
freaking cool. We did have one person who shall remain nameless, but he decided that a Murph that morning was better than participating in the Apex,
Yeah.
so he did leave and go back across the street.
That's
Right,
funny.
but there's guys that did the Apex because Skids put himself out there, and Hard Hat came over and helped and jumped in, and it was cool.
That's awesome. I like the creativity there. I think that's a cool way, just to keep guys engaged, right? And to keep pushing them a little bit, do something a little bit different. I'm curious if you would talk us through succession planning and kind of how that went.
Oh man, it's tough. It's super tough. I think that as you're kind of going through succession planning, you want somebody that's going to carry on the spirit of the site, um, but you don't want them to be you. Um, You want somebody that um, has a passion, um, but that passion doesn't have to be yours.
Mm.
Um, and I struggled a lot. I talked to a lot of guys. I talked to a lot of people. We talked through a lot of different things. Um, Realized a lot of guys that haven't been psych used, that you'd be shocked haven't been psych used before. Um, Had some conversations with some of those guys, both high level and direct, and and struggled for a long time to figure out what that looked like, and what it was. And like I said, it's kind of like giving a baby away. So you're
Mhm.
like, I got to make sure I give it to the right parent.
Yeah.
Uh, but then right, we engage in weird ways sometimes. So um, Big Rig and I had run into each other and interacted with each other. But we both do mustaches for kids every May, and and like we kind of connected over that, and so we kind of got this cool connection, and he was really starting to engage, and we had some good conversations, and he feels like he's been, in life, been given a lot, and it was time a way to give back, and it was perfect. So but it was tough. It was super hard. Like I've talked to a couple of guys, and they're like, I knew this guy was the guy,
Yeah.
and I can't say that. Like, I wasn't like, hey, like this is the guy. But I think he's done a great job so far. It's weird because I'm always like, should I go? Should I not go? Like,
Yeah. Do I go
I want to
and
give him, like, right.
yeah.
Like, it's important for you to be able to develop your own thing and be able to do your own thing. So I posted a couple times
Hmm.
since the transition, and stayed away a couple times where I thought like I should post there on a Monday morning. It is nice to sleep in on Monday mornings sometimes, though.
Yeah, every once in a while. It's so cool to just hear and to think about the legacy of leadership at that site. Really like when Greasefire launched that, it was really because we knew we had guys that didn't want to do a Murph on a Monday, right? And to hear you
Yeah,
now, 3 and now 4 site Qs in, continuing to carry that forward, but finding new creative ways to do it and pulling in guys that certainly weren't even in F3. It's just so cool to hear that
yeah,
and to just this idea of like being open to all men, continuing to like open the kind of virtual doors, right, to guys that need to be relieved of their sad clown syndrome. It's so
yeah.
cool hearing you talk through it like that. I would be curious, as we're thinking, kind of wrapping up a little bit. This is maybe the fastest hour of my day for sure because it's just been so engaging just hearing your story, man. I love it. Curious if there's anything else or maybe any advice that you would have, anything we didn't cover throughout the conversation that you would want to share or get off your chest at all.
Man, I think just dive in, right?
Dive
Like,
in. Yep.
like dive in, dive in. It's weird. I was at a conference last week, and the speaker was the Jason Sudeikis, the Ted Lasso guy,
Oh yeah.
um, and we were talking about leadership, and we were talking about customer service, and he said, turn your uh, no buts into yeses and yes ands. And I think that applies to us in F3 too, right? It's
Mhm.
not just about customer service that we do, in the hotel industry or whatever, but it's about how do you turn that no but into that yes and just dive in, like like go full bore, find that one guy that can bring you in, but then at a certain point in time you have to break away.
Mhm.
um ICB brought me in. I love ICB. We text all the time, but we don't have to post together every single time.
Yeah.
But now we do. Like, now we're like, hey, I miss you, let's go post together,
Yeah.
right? Spread your wings, dive in, adopt it, and let it be you, and then tell people what you need. Be honest, open, transparent.
Mhm.
um, there's times in our lives where we need to step back a little bit, but don't isolate yourself, and say, hey, I need a little bit, and then let those guys reach back out to you and draw you back into the mess when you're ready.
I love it. That's solid advice. I would be curious where you're at today and kind of where do you need prayers or encouragement from the packs?
Man, I I think probably the biggest thing is like the my family more so than me. My brother and my sister are really struggling with my mom. We still haven't closed a lot of things because they're not emotionally there yet. So I mean, just kind of continued thoughts towards and prayers to try to get some closure there.
Yeah.
Personally, I did my 20-mile long run for the marathon. I don't know how I'm gonna do another 6.2, but we're gonna get it
I
done.
saw that on Strava, man. I'm like, I've never done a marathon yet, so you're beyond me, man.
Those last 3 miles sucked, and I know I've got 6.2 after that. And so everybody tells me when you're there and it's a big deal and it'll be easier. I'm thankful I'm in Chicago where there'd be people out on the streets versus some of these smaller ones. So like that personally, like I want to overcome that hurdle. It's kind of a huge thing. It's weird because I think my mom would have been super proud. Right? Like it's always something she give me crap about, but in a I'm proud of you way.
Yeah.
So it's almost to me kind of closing that legacy. So it's pretty cool. But I think that would be the big thing, and then just the guys that we got a lot of guys that need a lot of help. Like they just need somebody there for them, and so try to find that guy that you can be there for. And let them just be the ear for them. Take them out to coffee, take them out to lunch, make them post, whatever it is. But there's a lot of guys in F3 that need that, and they're afraid to give that. So see if you can find that guy.
Heck yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you, man, and just I love hearing your story and the way that you share. You know, I can feel how much you care about other people and how much you care about like. I always like to say like there's something special about being able to be loved for who you are, where you're at, and I hear that as you're sharing your story of just like you've gotten to experience that, and now you're like, how do we get more guys to experience that? And I just love hearing that. We'll definitely be praying for you and your family. Right, the grieving process is just. Gosh, I don't know that anybody's figured that out. If they do, they need to call in and tell us. But I love you, dude. It's just good to hear from you and hear your story and get it out to the pack. So appreciate you taking time. We'll do a little name around here to close us off. Brandon Flaherty, 38, The Plague.
Josh Tanzer, 44.
Amadeus. And do you do like the tickle the ivories? But do you have a little hum the song or it's more like a two-hand Mozart kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's and then depending on who's posting, it's either Rock Me or
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Amadeus. Either way, like depends where I'm at.
Oh, like for like the Tech 9, like Amadeus, or that's not originally from Tech 9, right?
No. That is originally. Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to cut this part because this is
that's right.
Falco.
Okay, nice.
I was like, man.
I know, bad. Yeah. Tech 9 just pulled it in there because that's what rappers do, right? Well, I appreciate you, brother. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too.